Hello everyone, this is Brian with the Alliance. Sooner or later, we're all going to be looking for some type of power supply for a field radio or field operations. And I've been doing that for quite a while and talking to a bunch of our people in this group. Settled on this one here, this LiPo battery. This is kind of a big one, 50 amp hours, probably overkill for what I'm going to be using it for. But for sustained operations or my simplex repeater that I'm going to show you a little bit about, I've done another separate whole video on that. You can check that out. I'll include the link in the comments below. But it settled on this one, and it's a really nice battery. It's fairly lightweight, certainly lightweight compared to a comparably sized lead acid battery. And so one of the challenges was, what am I going to carry this around in? How am I going to package this up? So I was looking at, like a toolbox of some type that this would fit into, that would make a field expedient way to carry it and whatnot, and safely store the battery. But any toolbox that I could find that was tall enough was also just way too big and bulky, so it really wasn't working out. So what I ended up getting was just a regular battery box that would be for like a camper or a trailer of some type. And this one happened to be from Tractor Supply. I can't remember the cost on it, but hey, when you need something that works, the cost is not that big of a factor. So I got it. Now, it's not super sturdy, not really heavy duty construction, but definitely suitable for what the purpose I'm going to use it for. And then it just has this slip-on cover that goes on the top that allows you room for your cables out the sides here. So it's going to work out fairly nice. Then there's a strap that goes around to keep everything bundled up. I got to work on some type of handle for the top, but that'll be in the days and weeks to come. And now the box was certainly big enough to meet the needs of holding that battery and then some other accessories such as the cables and whatnot. But I wanted a way to keep it secure and keep it from being damaged in the event that this took a spill or a fall or whatever. So as fate would have it, the battery came in a box with this styrofoam packing around it to protect it during shipment. And unbelievable, I just happened to be very lucky, I guess. The foam on the battery fits right inside, snugly actually, inside that battery box. So that problem was solved all in and of itself. It sits right nice flush, so that the top will come down on it, and it's very well protected against shocks and bumps and whatever you may have. Now I cut out these two little slots, and those are kind of nice too, because once my cables are hooked here, I'm actually kind of somewhat protected against something falling on there and shorting out the terminals, and it gives me easy access to those terminals. So that worked out very well as well. The next thing to address was, how am I going to monitor the condition of the battery? So I got this little voltmeter, and it's actually way beyond just a simple volt display. It shows all kinds of stuff. So amp hours consumed and the current draw in amps when you're using the radio. So that is really handy and will just help me keep an eye on the status of the battery. So for the enclosure, this is just some simple little vinyl trim from vinyl siding. Nothing special. Someone was throwing it out, and I hate to see things go to waste. So I just fabbed up this little enclosure to protect all of the components inside. You see there's a couple switches. One for the main switch here, which is lit with a red LED. And then the other one is just for the charge circuit. So I'll hook this up to my solar charger controller, which is that unit right there. And so when I'm charging, I'll have that switch flipped on. Also, I could use that as an auxiliary out for 12 volts or 13 volts out as well if I wanted to. So inside here, you're not going to be able to see it, but there's all kinds of stuff going on. My negative and positive terminals are terminated on those terminal strips. I couldn't easily find without driving any distance, some of the nice terminal blocks. So I simply took a neutral bar from a electrical box, cut it in half, and I'm using that for my connections, and it works out really quite well. And again, as fate would have it, I mean, I'm just a lucky guy, I guess, this thing kind of lines right up and works really well. I left these tabs on the ends of this little controller box, I guess you'd call it. It slips right underneath this foam, and it holds it securely in place, and there's still plenty of clearance. It does not top out on the cover when it's in place. So let me get the terminals hooked up and I'll show you a little bit on how the battery actually looks when it's in operation. Okay, here I have the power management unit hooked up. The cables are connected and whatnot. And I have the power cable coming out. I've just had this on a T connector for now, and it's suitable for what I'm using it for this little ammo can radio. And the other longer lead that I showed you earlier is the one for the charge circuit. That will go to the controller. That guy right there. And I can turn that on or off with this switch. I am going to put a little protective thing over there that just makes that an intentional act between turning that on and off so that it's not accidentally bumped and makes these leads hot. You know, that little rubber cover or plastic cover does fit snugly, but there's still a chance that that could pop off and those two terminals touch each other, and then I've got nastiness going on. So, all right, here is the main power switch. So I'll turn that on. You can see it's got a red LED light on it, which is kind of neat, but kind of overkill too. And I realized that there is some current draw just from that light alone that will affect, you know, overall life, I guess, but it's so minimal that I'm not really going to worry about it. So here's the display. Of course, I've got voltage, and also what's going to be the most handy one maybe is the amperage one here. So you can see when you key up on the radio or when the radio is transmitting what it's drawing for amperage, and then a cumulative amp hours. So that will be very handy as well. And again, this thing's going to draw a little bit of current, so there's a compromise to be made there, but this battery certainly is big enough to handle those needs, being 50 amp hour battery. So again, this is what it's powering up most of the time. I'll plug that in with a T connector, and this is my ammo can simplex repeater. I've also got a BTEC amplifier in there, and if you're familiar with those, what they do if they're wired in the way you want them to be, they'll take the nominal 5 watts of transmit power from the radio and bump that up to probably in the vicinity of 15 watts or so, maybe a little bit more. But right now I've got just the 935G in here, but the cool part about this simplex repeater is you can plug any radio you want into it. This one happens to be set up now for the K1 connector, but I also have the adapter, the cord, to use my Motorola HT's different spacing on the connector. So that's nice too. So if you want a little bit better quality as far as receive and transmit, obviously you'd go with a little bit better radio. There is the simplex repeater itself. I'm not going to go into great depth about that because I did a whole nother video on how this thing works. I'm also not going to tell you the manufacturer because, you know, I'm not doing an endorsement or whatever. Just kind of showing you what I've put together here and a little bit about how it works. You guys can research it yourself or message me privately if you want more information. In this ammo can radio, all my connections can be made on the outside too. There's a port that the speaker mic can be plugged into. There's the power, there's the antenna. I just have a standard mobile type antenna hooked up on it now. I've tried all kinds of different antennas, and some are better than the others with regards to portability. I've got a really cool roll-up dipole that I made just out of coax that works exceptionally well if you just want to tie it in a tree or whatever. I got a voltage display on the radio itself too, and when the cover's on there and snapped down, that's very well protected through this little hole that I drilled in that snap down cover. So there you have it. That's the basics of what I've got going on here. I'm really happy with this way this battery turned out, and I'm looking forward to using it in the field, and especially with the solar charger, just setting it out there and letting it go and see how long it holds up. Very good. Thanks for watching. Please send your questions, your criticisms, and your sarcasm to Carl at, no, not really. Send them to me. I'll address them, and I'll probably answer you back just as sarcastically as you presented your question or comments. Take care. Talk to you all soon.